Hey there friends, how's it going? Richard here, hopefully you're doing well. Thanks for checking out this video. If you haven't already done so, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Always throw out new content, whether it's building your side hustle, Tesla, all kinds of good stuff. Anyways, today I wanted to share with you experience driving the Tesla Model 3 that I have here, Model 3 long range all-wheel drive, and that is Autopilot New York City. So what I'm going to do is, a lot of the videos that I've seen, and it's a great feature, and but it's at least like there's a huge difference between driving in New York City or like urban areas, city areas, versus somewhere where it's rural roads or not that much traffic, and you can hypermile your way to wherever you gotta go. So you see the camera shaking. Why? Because you got all these cracks and whatnot in the road. So I'm actually driving right now from Astoria, Queens over to the South Ozone Park area. The route is going to constitute the Grand Central Parkway to the Wyck Expressway, and then finally exit in South Ozone Park. So what I'm going to do is simply flip the camera, and you're going to see how it works with Autopilot. Now, before I do that, I do want to preface some things that I do just because I don't know this to be true, but I just feel a little more comfortable doing it. So the first thing is, I like to set my destination on the navigation before engaging Autopilot. Again, I don't know if it's true, if the navigation system has anything. I assume it corresponds or communicates with the Autopilot system for full self-driving, but I do that just because, at least for my peace of mind, I think it's helping out to navigate the roads and sort of gauge upcoming turns. Whereas if you don't set navigation, it's just simply going to follow the roads. I don't know if this is true. Maybe Tesla can confirm this, but I assume that if I use navigation, it's going to better understand, or at least predict, where the car may be making, left turn, right turn, where bends are and whatnot. So that's what I like to do. So even if it's a place that I know I'm going to, I always set it in my navigation. All right, so let's hop to it. All right, so we're on the Grand Central Parkway. I'm gonna chill here I'm gonna go into the right lane, the middle lane. And the reason being, the left lane, at least for me, if you agree with me or not, that the left lane is for speedsters, right? And I don't, trust me, I'm kind of like a lead foot kind of person myself, but with Autopilot, if you're not gonna stay ahead of the game, you always gotta change. And I want for this video just Autopilot to navigate. So hit the stalk twice. There's my Autopilot. I'll set to, I'm not gonna tell you what I'm setting to because I don't want to be alleged to have committed any crimes or breaking any speed rules. So Autopilot's engaged. All it takes is two clicks of the stalk downward. I slowed down a bit as that taxi came into the lane. Let's see if I can move this a bit better, center the okie. And this car is going to come in. I'm going to slow down a little more, and there it is. That's pretty much my drive each and every morning. On this end, I really got to get a second camera so I can film, second and third camera so I can film while I'm doing this. But in here, I'm just keeping my my hand on the bottom of the steering wheel, resting on my legs. I'm kind of like, how do I say this? My legs are folded, right? So my legs aren't hovering over the brakes. They're not hovering over the accelerator pedal. They're just kind of like in a seated squat position. And yeah, just leave my hands sort of loosely on the steering wheel. I think the weight of the hands alone is the feedback that the steering wheel is looking for to make sure someone is driving the vehicle for Autopilot. That's what Consumer Reports hacked. They put a counterweight on the steering wheel. Can't wait. When I get my hands on a GM car, one of those things, I'm going to put like a toy doll in the driver's seat so it tricks the eyes. Anyways, neither here nor there. So yeah, the traffic ahead of me is flowing probably around, right now it looks like 50 miles an hour or so. And it keeps pretty much this distance. They just repaved these roads, this part of the Grand Central Parkway, so the lines are really clean. and so I'm guessing the cameras on the Tesla have no problems viewing them. Later on, there are certain parts of the Grand Central, I think the westbound side, that they're repaving now, so there's no guide marks other than the cut in the road. Yet the Model 3 cameras actually use that as a frame of reference. It's not perfect. It does have it does cause jukes and whatnot, where it realizes, whoops, I'm about to hit the median or hit the shoulder, but it actually follows those cuts pretty well. So here we go. We're gonna stay straight. Now remember, autopilot is different from full self-driving. Whereas if it was full self-driving, if I had to take that exit there, 9E, it would have shifted lanes if I needed it to. But this car is equipped with autopilot, and so it's just lane. All the assistance it provides is within your lane. So the speed adjustment, the keeping you within your lane, all that kind of stuff. Goodness. So what else? Yeah. So how's the weather where you're at? Now, here's one thing I will say is that a lot of people have commented when I read owner forums, and I tend to agree more and more as I've been driving this car now for about a month and a half, is people reported a reduction in fatigue. And I tend to agree. Whereas, you know, it's just one less thing that you have to do. It takes a while. It took me a couple of days, actually weeks, to trust the car, especially the speed sense, traffic aware cruise control, and the lane change, right? I just got to make sure that it's going to make its turn, like this bend right here, that it would make the turn on the bend. But as I've gotten more comfortable trusting the vehicle, that's when I think the fatigue has reduced, because now I can hop in my car, set autopilot, and again, I'm not worrying about speed adjustments. I have the distance to the next car to I think the longest level. Again, peace of mind. If it's going to keep this much of a buffer between the vehicles at most times, right? If that car ahead of me stops short, then you know this car is going to stop short as well. But you know, I'm comfortable with this distance. I like this distance. So I don't worry necessarily as much as I would when I was driving, and always having to measure that. One thing that is pretty funky when you use autopilot is, as we experienced earlier, when a car does cut ahead of you, even if there's a lot of room. Like right now, if I were driving this car myself, controlling the accelerator and the brakes, I don't mind that this car to the right cuts in. This car, the Tesla, because of the distance settings, if that car cuts in, this is gonna slow down abruptly. It may not stop, but it'll slow down abruptly, and that to me is a little dangerous, because cars behind me. All right, let's see what happens here. I'm going at 54. It's gonna slow down to 50 to let that vehicle ahead of me. It's just hard. I feel much more comfortable when I'm, if a car's going to head ahead of me, I'm okay with shorter distances if I'm controlling the accelerator and the brake. The Tesla Model 3, though, again, it uses its own imagery, and so if it senses someone's cutting that distance in half, it's going to try to create that separation as quickly as possible. So oftentimes, I feel like since I've been driving this vehicle and using autopilot, I've been looking at my rear view mirror more so than I would normally do if I were controlling the accelerator and brake, because I want to make sure that there's enough space between me and the car behind me. I'm not necessarily concerned about the car ahead of me. I trust the Tesla to keep that distance. It's just the car behind me. And you know, if there come occasion where this car again stops short because someone switches lanes ahead of me or so, that's when it becomes a little challenging. So I'm gonna switch lanes here because I got to get off taking the Van Wyck. Now this is gonna be super cool and a super good test, because they've got a lot of construction going on the Van Wyck. This is actually the first time that I'll let it go. I may have to take control if I feel like it's coming too close to the construction barriers. So we're hopping in. Got it. Traveling right now at about 40 miles an hour. Oh, it reached the construction zone. Interesting. and it won't let me go faster than 30 miles an hour. It actually cut down to 30 miles an hour because I guess it notices that it's a construction zone. Oh, I came really close there. Let's raise the speed a little bit. All right, we're exiting this construction zone. Oh my gosh, don't hit that corner, don't hit that corner. Oh God. Wow, that came really close. All right, now we're in traffic. Let's see what happens here. It's gonna slow down. 30. Booyah! Awesome. So, and there was recently an update a couple of weeks ago that I think really helped with that deceleration. Prior to that update, it was really buggy when I got into traffic like this. It stopped much harder. After that update, I'm not sure what Tesla did, but as you can see, when it reaches traffic like that, I think I was leaving that construction zone area. I was hitting about 50 and then slowed down to about 30-ish or so to stop. But the slowing down was much smoother than it used to be. So that was a much welcome improvement from Tesla. All right, let's see what's going to happen here. I'm going to hang out in traffic, and I'm going to have a sip of coffee. Oh yeah. So it's really cool as you're in the vehicle, you notice the map, the screen, because it shows the lane, and I love seeing what the car sees. It builds these models out. Like here comes a truck, and it builds out a box truck. The car ahead of us, it only has, at least this, autopilot, it senses the lanes immediately next to you. So if you're in the middle lane, it has the lanes on left and right. As I'm on the left lane right now, it only senses the lane adjacent to the right, which is interesting, because I think if you were on let's say this median here, barrier wasn't there, what would it sense about traffic going the other way? I don't know that. I don't think I've noticed if I've ever been on a road like that. So right now, just to let you know, we're kind of in some slow traffic. It's not standstill traffic. Where speed right now is about 15 miles an hour, keeping right in the middle of the lane. That's another thing that I noticed about autopilot that made me cognizant about my own driving. I drive with a very heavy left bias. So what I mean by that is when I drive, I stay to as far left as I can. I would ride that yellow line pretty much if I was driving this car. The Tesla centers itself, and it's a little uncomfortable. I think right now, as I'm sitting here, the car is pretty much centered, but I think I'm riding the right lane marks. But according to this vehicle, I'm pretty much centered, and it shows the same thing on the screen. Right now, 20 miles an hour. Looks like we're flowing a little bit. Cool. And this is the reduction in fatigue. Like, you don't always have to be aware. Like, sometimes people will change the radio station right here, take their eye off the road, and if the vehicle ahead of you slows down or stops suddenly, like, that's where accidents occur. This is where I get a little more paranoid about the vehicles behind me, and that's because, and I get it, when I drive and I'm in full control of accelerator and brake, I often look at the car ahead of the car in front of me, right? So right now, instead of looking at the Jeep ahead of me, I'd probably be, again, I'm shifted over all the way to the left, riding that left lane, lane marking, and then I'm looking at the car ahead. So when that car ahead goes, I tend to accelerate. The Tesla doesn't do that. It accelerates based on the vehicle ahead. So the car behind me, I often find, will start accelerating, but the Tesla is still, if this is standstill traffic, the Tesla would be at 0, right? And it would wait until there's enough distance with the car ahead before it starts accelerating. So that's contributed to my anxiety about the cars behind me. They're reading traffic not just in front of themselves, but ahead. Meanwhile, the Tesla just reads the traffic almost directly in front of it, to the side of it. So that's, in slower traffic, that's where my anxiety really goes up. High-speed traffic, I think I'm okay with it. There's more distance and whatnot, but it's really this slow 10 to 15, maybe 20 miles an hour traffic where I'm really concerned. Less than 15 miles an hour. So right now we're at a steady 45. We got some construction cones here. Tesla recognized it, shifted over.
1 mile, take exit 2 on the right toward ROADWAYS Boulevard.
Super duper cool. Ride back. Amazing. Amazing. Alright, let's see what's going on here. I've got my max set to 55 right now, but traffic is flowing at about 40 miles an hour, so I've got plenty. And that's the thing. The Tesla recognizes that the car ahead of me isn't going that fast. Let's see what happens here. Slow down. I was going about 47. Now we're at 45. So slow down just a little bit, again, to, I think, maintain that buffer with the car that cut in front of us. That's about it. I'm going to switch lane, take over now, because I've got to start getting out of here. I'll leave the traffic-aware cruise control to manage the speed, but I'm currently managing the steering wheel. Cool. Let's get out of here. Anyways, folks, that's Autopilot New York City. Thank you for accompanying me as I head to work. What was that? It just slowed down at 5 miles an hour suddenly. I wonder what it sensed. Exit 30.
In 500 feet, turn
And it's
right
slowing
onto
down.
ROADWAYS
Wow.
Boulevard.
Slow down to 40 miles an hour. Anyways, I gotta yield. I don't see the traffic.
Now turn right onto ROADWAYS Boulevard.
Cool. So that was driving on autopilot from the Grand Central Parkway to the Wyck Expressway. So there you go. Super dope experience using autopilot on the mean streets of New York City. Now, keep in mind this, we didn't use it on the local streets. It's just, again, I think for me, you could probably do it. Most New York City local streets, the speed limit's 25 miles an hour anyways. They've got speed cameras, speed traps everywhere. So I generally don't use autopilot on local streets. It's just not worth it. You know, if you're going something, hit a camera, I'd rather avoid it. But it would probably work if you have traffic ahead of you, right? Because at a stop sign, it'll sense that the traffic ahead of you stops and then follow the speed of that. You set it maybe to like 35 miles an hour and you should be fine. But it just, me personally, I just don't do autopilot in local streets. But there you go. For anyone who's out there thinking about getting a Tesla or an electric vehicle, but make sure it's a Tesla. You know, if you're like me, you live in an urban neighborhood, urban city, and it's not all long roads with, you know, it's a mile between stoplights, and you're wondering, can autopilot handle it? Well, I just showed you, autopilot can handle the mean roadways of New York City. Just traverse the Grand Central Parkway along with the Wyck Expressway. Sin problema. So if you're interested in Tesla, it's a great experience. I encourage you to do it. If you haven't already done so, be sure to use my referral link, dropping in the description below and maybe in this video below. Yeah, be sure. Why? Because if you end up ordering your new Tesla from that referral link, both you and I will get 1,000 free supercharger miles. And, you know, for at least for me, that's like that's almost like 2 weeks worth, 2 to 3 weeks of charging. So yeah, be sure to do that in an incognito window or clear out your cache, clear out your browser. You don't want anyone to look at your internet browsing history anyway. So clear it out, drop, and then check out my link. So you and I would both get 1,000 free supercharging miles. Anyways, there you go. Hopefully you enjoy this video. Thank you for accompanying me on my way to work. The Tesla Model 3, taking on the mean streets, mean roadways of New York City and handling it with excellence. Okay, until next time, take care, be well.